Hello everybody and welcome back to another Minecraft video. We're in my creative world and in front of a build that I did a very long time ago, and I've been doing some more building in single player, and I wanted to show you what I've been up to. So of course it's not this build, this was from a while ago, but I wanted to experiment with some lighting, and I've done a few builds like that before, and I'll actually go over one of the builds that I've done previously, but I didn't actually record. I did post it on my Instagram, so, you know, go follow that if you're not already. But anyway, today I did some more lighting stuff, using blocks and building to make things look like they're glowing or covered in light. And I wanted to discuss a little bit of how I've done that and how you can do it yourself. So without further ado, let's get into the time lapse, and we'll talk about both builds right after. So let's go. So here is the final build that I did for the lighting experiment. So as you can see, it's like a city street. It's got two darker buildings and then the one that's covered in light, just with the light rays, I guess. We've also got an interesting thing here with the shadow of the light pole. But yeah, it was really interesting to make this lighting study because the main elements that I used were contrast. So of course we've got the bright yellow contrasting quite a lot against the darker grey, greeny colour. And I did use a concept art to give me ideas for how to build this myself, but of course it's very different to try and replicate it in Minecraft. But I think I did well. I hope so. There's a few little detail bits I added which I'll go over at the buildings. So there's some wear and tear on the buildings that I just did with some darker blocks in comparison to the tuff. And then there's also some fire escapes here and there, just to give it a little bit more character, which looks really fun. Each window is different, or like each window on the three buildings is different. So this one's got like a cross design, this one's got kind of like a paneled design, and this one's like a separated window. And even on the windows, there's a few of them that have a few little intricacies. Specifically in this middle section, you know, there's some wires and things like that, maybe some lights or air conditioning, and then some towels or something hanging off of the edge. And I did get some inspiration from the concept art, of course, but that is one of my favorite things to add when I'm doing these kinds of builds. you know, like city ones, where everything is very the same, but you can add little characteristics to show that each room is different. And of course, I didn't finish anything inside or outside. But again, as with most of my builds, especially lately, they're meant to be viewed from afar or just from the front. Now, one thing that was kind of interesting that I had to play with was the positioning of this light. So of course it's not like actually in a circle. I've just tried to make that illusion of it, you know, going out, but all of it is on the basically the same depth or level. But of course this is like slightly in front, the light pole. So I had to move this like light so that it could be viewed from different angles. So it can't really be viewed from a top, but it doesn't really work well. It can be viewed from here all the way down to here because the whole light, I don't know, weird perspective. Weird perspective things in Minecraft. But it was something that I had to figure out and make sure it worked, which it does, which is perfect. Now the windows here, they do actually glow, and that's because I used honey and then frog lights behind it because they looked a little bit too dull when I just had the honey itself. And it was also really interesting because I had to make the like triangle shape, and of course it went on to some of the buildings, so I had to like, you know, put some color into here to give it that same idea. We've got even the honey windows on this side and on this side to show that, which is really fun. Anyway, a few other contrasting things. The sides of the buildings I did with some walls to like give it a darker finish, and that just made this whole light thing pop out just a little bit more. And it really gives a good focus point for the build, for people to observe it like it is, which I think is really interesting. And one of my favorite little details, which I talked about a little bit at the start, is this shadow from the light pole. So it's kind of meant to be viewed from about here, so you can see the shadow stretches, and of course it doesn't really finish, but it stretches out so that you can see it on the camera when you view it. And I did a little mini gradient just because it would have been lighter here, but there would still be a shadow, and then as you move on it gets a little bit darker, which was really fun. Anyway, I'm really proud of this build actually. I don't usually build with yellow or warmer tones, I feel like, and even the contrasting elements I still struggle with, but this one was like, it was really fun to build. I really enjoyed it. I've been liking doing a lot of the lighting study things lately, and this build was definitely no exception. It's probably, I can't really say it's my favorite lighting build, but it's up there because I'll actually show you now the other lighting build I did a little while ago, posted on my Instagram, but I never made a video about it. But I really liked the lighting build, and it is very different in terms of the lighting styles that I used. So let's go and see that one. So here is the other lighting build that I did a while back. Or maybe not too long ago, I think it was a few months back. But yeah, I wanted to do a bit of like coloured glowing lighting, and I did use concept art reference for this, but it was really interesting to try and replicate it in Minecraft. And even there's still a little bit of perspective because you can see the, what are they, like towers? I don't remember what they're called. But they're all kind of getting smaller as you go on with just the same colours to give that perspective look. Now this one didn't necessarily use as much contrast. Of course it used like some with, you know, the warm coloured lighting and the blue background, but it used a lot of gradients, and that was kind of one of the main things that I had to try over here. So all this gradient was done by hand. It had to go from darker to lighter, from blue to orange as well, which was really interesting to try and do in Minecraft. And oh no, the facade, it's been ruined. No, I only did the front. I didn't do the sides. I did start doing the sides, but I kind of ran out of steam with this build and I needed to move on to a new project, so it didn't quite get finished completely. But yeah, this is still got like some colored lighting, and obviously it doesn't glow or anything, but you can still see that it's meant to replicate a sort of light. And I mean, paintings that replicate light also don't glow, but anyway, the point I'm trying to make is like colored lighting in Minecraft is still possible. It just takes a different approach. You kind of have to play with color and contrast to get the effect of lighting in your builds, if colored lighting is something that you find interesting. which is actually one of the fun things about Minecraft. I like that we can't do everything. You have to kind of compromise or make different adjustments in order to get results that, you know, you find interesting. So, of course, with this one, I've used a ton of weird blocks. I mean, we have suspicious sand here to be a very light part. Beehives and pumpkins, like creaking hearts. It's very strange. Ancient debris. So, like, you can see this is a survival-friendly build, of course. But yeah, by using a bunch of different and weird blocks, I'm able to get a colored lighting effect that you wouldn't really be able to get just naturally in Minecraft, which is very interesting. Now the background here as well for this build, it's supposed to be like a cityscape. I wanted to add little lights so it kind of gives the facade the idea of little glowing parts of a city, you know, far in the distant background, which was really fun to add. But yeah, if you want to make colored lighting in Minecraft without, you know, having colored lighting, this is all vanilla. So no shaders, no mods or anything like that. I don't even think I used Axiom for this build. I don't remember, it's been a while, but I don't think I used Axiom. I think I just did this all by hand. And same with the other one, with the exception of like the big, you know, you know what I mean. The walls, that's the word. But yeah, so you can still do all this colored lighting stuff in Minecraft without mods. It just takes a different approach, and it is harder. I won't deny that. The best way if you want to build similar to this is find a piece of concept art that has some interesting lighting ideas, and I'll try and post some of the references that I like to use into my Discord, so if you haven't joined that, you know, hop on. You can see the kinds of things that I like to build. And yeah, if you find a reference that you like, just go by the color, see what elements kind of stand out to you. So of course with this one it was the contrast and gradient, so that was two elements that I had to focus on while building it, making sure that that had the best contrast. So, you know, if I used a yellow that was a little bit too washed out, or it was too cooler in tone, it wouldn't have that same contrasting effect against the blue background. So things like that was stuff that I had to focus on while building. And the best way to get better at these kinds of builds, or make it feel a little bit more natural or come naturally, is again, just pick a picture and try and build it. If you start to get stuck, just keep going anyway. Maybe it'll turn out bad. Lord knows I've got so many builds that have turned out bad from doing it, or just unfinished. But this is a build as well that I started and left for weeks because I thought it was turning out bad. And then I went back to it a bit later, just, you know, to try and finish it, and got it done. And, you know, the final result has worked out, which is perfect. And again, not saying it'll always work out, but yeah, if you don't finish it, you won't know. But yeah, I know this was a little bit of a rambly explanation on lighting in Minecraft, but I wanted to show two builds that I had done recently and kind of how I was doing it, the main focus that I had to keep in mind while building it. And I just wanted to show off, you know, the builds. I hope you like them. Maybe provide some inspiration as well for some builds that you might be interested in making, or some elements you might be interested in trying out. So yeah, it's very early in the morning when I'm filming this, so I hope that it's making at least some sense. And I hope you enjoyed the builds and the video. Join my Discord if you have any questions that I might be able to try and answer about building, about content, things like that. I'd be more than happy to get a message and see if I can help you out. Otherwise, if you have any ideas, please leave them in the comments and let me know. Let me know if you liked the builds, which one of the two you liked the most. That'd be cool. If I could start a poll in the YouTube comments, I absolutely would. Just, you know, out of my curiosity. But yeah, if you're interested in building, lighting and color is really fun to play with. It's a pretty cool tool to have in your toolbox as a builder. So give it a whirl, give it a go. Have some fun, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.